This interview is brought to you by Fortinet Federal. How can your agency improve network visibility, control, and cyber defense? With advanced technology and expert support from Fortinet Federal. Advance your mission with modern, trusted networks that connect data centers, clouds, and remote users. For more, see FortinetFederal.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ross John Fortuna. I am the managing editor at GovCIO Media and Research. We're here at AFCEA TechNet Cyber 2024 in Baltimore. Joining me today is Dell Foster, Executive Director of Joint Force Headquarters, DODIN. Thanks for being with me.
Ross, thanks for having me.
So, the architecture of DODIN, how does it add to the complexity of C2 operations?
Wow. Yeah. So it is cyber, like any other warfighting domain, as now cyber is all about controlling the terrain, understanding and controlling that terrain. So in cyber, we actually work in a very man-made terrain. So it's very dynamic, ever-changing from day in and out. To add additional complexity to that, our mission at Joint Force Headquarters DODIN is to secure, operate, and defend the DODIN. You might find it funny to know that we don't own any terrain at all, Joint Force Headquarters DODIN, but we integrate, synchronize, and direct those who do. So who are those who do? Those are 45 DoD components that we call DODIN of Area of Operation Commands, that we kind of divvy up that very federated DODIN into those 45 parts. So we have a 1 to 45 kind of command and control perspective that we have to work through. Certainly not ideal, right? But that certainly adds to the complexity. But it's all based off that architecture. And the architecture is, all before we were decided, it was decided to make cyber a domain, there was still the regular IT, that was just under the responsibility of the CIO administrative side, right? So the budgets come through the CIOs, these different components build their networks as they see fit to accomplish their mission. And it's still that way. In the meantime, we overlaid on, hey, we're going to make this a warfighting domain. And now, oh yes, U.S. Cybercom, Joint Force Headquarters DODIN, you command and control this very complex domain that you have very little control on how they architect, how we architect those domains and how they're structured. So even though we do have what we call DACO authority, direct authority for cyberspace operations, we don't control those budgets and how those domains are actually built, right? Even though we're responsible to defend them. So in addition to the complexity of the ever-changing domain, things are added and taken away from that terrain every single day. We add the complexity to the fact that we really don't have a lot of control and say over how that is morphed and constructed over time.
How does communication factor into that? How do you go through with all these 45 different entities to say, we need to defend this network, we need to defend this piece of it?
Yeah. So I think we're really good on the reactive side, right? So when something is happening and we understand the risk that may be based off of intel reporting or threat or vulnerabilities that we've assessed, we're very good at the reactive part so far, right? We can say through a cyber tasking order, we can go ahead and direct those folks to say, hey, fix this, patch that, whatever it may be, whatever the mitigation to that particular risk that we see. We have that kind of down pat, a regular order system that we push out to those 45 or whoever's affected by the vulnerability that we're assessing. But to the earlier point, where we can still work on and improve is really working on being more proactive, right? How do we make sure that we are having those warfighting concepts, buying those warfighting tools and warfighting in a cyber sense, in this case, obviously, that are going to be interoperable, make sure that can provide us at the operation level the data that we need, provide them the information and tactical tools they need at the same time at the DAO level, so we can stay ahead of the adversary, right? So and part of that, as we were talking prior to starting, was just like you said, how do you stay ahead of the adversary? And it's really about that the boy OODA loop. And for us at the operation level is really having that awareness, right? So how do we make sure that we have all the data that is available at that tactical level to be pulled up at a certain level, to be aggregated, correlated, so we can have an understanding of the risk of what's going on in the DoD.
How do partnerships across DoD and across government, as well as with industry and national partners, how do they factor into the mission?
Yeah, so So partnerships are key. As General Skinner always says, cyber is a team sport, right? So, and we are certainly part of that team. But also, it's part of a team sport is really understanding your role, what you do on the field, so to speak, and understanding the role of those that are on the field with you. So, so I think it's really about those two things first and foremost, understanding our role and then understanding our partners, whether that be DHS, CISA, or NSA, or DIA, those government partners that we have, and then of course, as you already mentioned, industry partners, what they can do for us, academia, et cetera. And when it comes to just thinking about the whole of government immediately, it's really about information sharing, right? It's a need to share. When we talk about cyber defense, how quickly can we, understanding a vulnerability, assess it so we can mitigate it for ourselves, but also share it with our partners and get it out to them so they can also understand the vulnerability or the threat that might be to their networks and how they might want to actually mitigate what actions they may want to take. And vice versa. It's always bidirectional. We help them, they help us. And I'll just, and even just to take a step even a little bit further is I've been talking about those 45 DoD components that we have to share with and make sure they're integrated and sharing data as well. So that's just the government look. And you asked about the whole spectrum. Right? So that's how we kind of do it in the DoD and the government. Also with industry, I think one of our key partnerships with them is really being transparent about our requirements, right? What do we need in order to get better? And we hear from them all the time, hey, we want to help. We want to be a great partner, but you need to let us know what your requirements are, what you need, and be able to understand those. So for us to be able to give that information to them and for them to be good partners and give us solutions, not only solutions that are not as proprietary, that were a little more interoperable, that we can actually deploy on our networks, and not to be boxed in by proprietary rules and things along those lines. So that's kind of the partnership we're looking for with industry, and then with academia. I say all the time, we have had a generation, our initial generation of cyber warriors, or what we call them, were really a lot of signals intelligence folks that we said, hey, we're making this cyber thing, right? So we took some SIGINT folks and said, you're cyber guys now. And then we took some regular IT folks and said, now you're cyber guys, right? Which both lend itself very well to cyber, but it is certainly a different mindset from coming from a support type of mindset to a operational type mindset, right? So what we're looking at is make sure we're building that next generation of actual cyberspace operators that grow up in the mindset of, hey, this is a battle space, a battle domain that we can grab them from academia or grab them from the as service members in the military to have that mindset, that understanding, and work with us in that regard. So that's kind of the partnerships we're looking for with academia and then industry. What else I didn't, trying to figure out.
That's good. Yeah. That's all the stuff I was asking about. But I wanted to ask now about because you mentioned the generational side of things, and we can end on this. This is something that is interesting to me, particularly digital natives. As the generations move forward, the younger people are, the more that is part of their lives coming out of the crib with a tablet or whatever.
Right.
So how do you use their skills, their sort of innate skills and their nature and nurture notion of cybersecurity, while also sort of making sure that they're nimble and good at what they do?
Yes. No, it is, like you said, it's a double-edged sword when it comes to our users, right? So one of our biggest threat vectors when it comes to any network is our users, right? So how do you get in? Sloppy users that do things, whether they be just regular end users or whether they be system administrators or whatever it may be. So having a very, like you said, digital savvy generation that's coming on board, it's short of some type of horrific event in the world, where technology is going forward, never backward, right? So we're going to continue to go forward. From the user aspect, is to continue education and understanding, right? So it's funny because like my kids, they certainly understand cybersecurity way better than I did, at that same age, and they understand the importance and the risk but there's certainly more education that needs to go to our end users and making sure they understand implications of that. From the side of the house of where they're actually operating and working with us, it's certainly a great advantage to have that level of competency and expertise coming in the door, even before you've explained one thing about operations or cybersecurity, because they just have that innate ability. Because, like you said, they grew up, understanding it, using it, taking some coding classes in school, whatever it may be. So I think we continue to try to harness that. But the technical skills are becoming even deeper and even, for lack of better words, more technical as we go along, right? So as we get on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence, machine learning, those things that we're going to need even more skilled, more technically savvy, cleared personnel that can come work and support our mission area. So certainly we're on the right track. Our young people are bent that direction, as you already kind of alluded to. But we still have work to do with academia to make sure that we're formulating the right skill sets that we need. One of those big ones, again, in order to be able to outpace the adversary, is that analytical overmatch, right? So how do we get better at those things where we can get in that decision really quickly?
Certainly, it's not like it's going to change, as you said. It's not going to stop changing. Like you said, this stuff moves forward no matter what. Thanks so much for being with us.
Ross, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
This interview is also brought to you by Comcast Government Services. Find out how Comcast Government Services is providing solutions to the federal government that enable mission-critical network transformation designed to scale with evolving needs. Visit comcastbusiness.com/FedGov to learn more.